Okay, here we are back again with more Dragon Age Origins, and I have some more gifts to give, so I think we'll probably go ahead and do that. This, let's see, Silver Sword of Mercy, I believe it is for Liliana.
Oh, how dear of you.
Oh, I think she's already
Thank you
at 100,
so
so,
much.
but that's okay. That's okay. Ogren. He likes booze, so we're gonna give him a lot of booze, yeah.
This is a wonderful gift. By my ancestors, this is a wonderful gift. That looks fine indeed.
Yeah.
That looks fine indeed.
There we go. Alright. So, he likes that. That's good. So yeah, we're getting there with Ogren. That's awesome. So I think I do just want to go ahead and continue some more codex because we still have a lot to go through. I'm not going to worry about, obviously, the controls part, but we do have quite a few sort of interesting little things to read through, so we're going to continue. Here's Orzammar History Chapter 1. The memories tell us that our kingdom once reached far beneath the mountains, and that the tides were almost beyond counting. Kalsharak was the capital then, home to all the noble houses, and Orzammar was simply the home of the miner and smith castes. It was with the Tevinter Imperium that things changed. Paragon Garal moved the seat of power to Orzammar to more closely oversee the trade that began with the surface. It seemed that our people were entering a new age of prosperity. The memories hold no explanations for the coming of the Darkspawn, only questions. At first, they were rumors, noises in the deep roads, a lost traveler here and there. The warrior caste sent men to patrol the road and thought the matter settled. We did not know that while we searched for them, they were engaged in a search of their own. Sleeping deep in the stone itself was the archdemon. They found him and awakened him, and the blight began. The Darkspawn poured out of the deep roads like smoke then, and the warrior caste struggled to hold them back. Countless tides were lost in that first blight, but as ever, in the worst moments of our need, a paragon arose. Paragon Iduken led the defenses of Orzammar, and the Dark Horde was beaten back. The cost of victory, however, was great. Much of the deep roads were sealed to hold back the Darkspawn, cutting off tides and even whole cities forever. Orzammar as a kingdom, as told by Shaper Zebor. Here's Orzammar History Chapter 2. We were losing the war against the Darkspawn, slowly, a few men at a time, but losing all the same. The warrior caste was dwindling with each generation as more able-bodied men perished in their prime without fathering sons. With each generation, more of the deep road had to be sealed, more tides lost forever. The kings of Orzammar watched and wondered how long it would be until nothing remained of our people but the memories. And then Paragon Caridon arose from the smith caste with a new weapon, golems, giant soldiers of living stone and metal. Each one was an army. With the Paragon's golems, we began to retake the lands we had lost. For a while, there was hope that victory, final victory, was coming. But at the height of the war, Paragon Caridon disappeared, and with him, the means to make golems. Several forays were made into the deep roads to search for the Paragon, but nothing was ever found. Over time, the golems we had were damaged beyond repair, and we began our slide once again toward extinction. Like, it's sad, but also we understand now why it had to happen that way. Like, yeah, I mean, like, personally, I think the dwarves could potentially not die out if they were just willing to be a little less isolationist, basically. The Blights. My dear Annika, I would not worry about the assembly. Let the nobles sit together and argue over whose house owns the grandest tig. It keeps them from panicking, which they would surely do otherwise, and prevents them from making a greater nuisance of themselves. War is the business of warriors. I would say that the enemy's strategy seems to be changing, but they never appeared to have a strategy before, beyond destroying everything in their path. For weeks, their numbers appeared to be dwindling. There was talk that perhaps we were getting close to wiping them out. We could not have been more wrong, for today we came upon the body of their main force. I cannot give words to it, Annika. I have never before seen so much death in one place. There were darkspawn beyond counting, and at the heart of the throng a great beast, as tall as the palace of Orzammar, with breath of fire. A paragon of darkspawn, perhaps, for they seemed to pay it deference. They were leaving, marching toward the mine shafts which lead to the surface, but I knew when I beheld them that once they have devoured what lies above us, they will be back. From the letters of Paragani Dukin. So that's that. Let's see, what else have we got? So yeah, Balin is now king. We knew that. Lord Pyral Harrowmont, yeah, he's probably gonna be executed. Whoops. We know about Liliana because she told us about her history as a bard and her history with Marjolaine. Oghren. Here's some interesting stuff about Oghren, the dwarf we just picked up in Orzammar. I'm not saying I should be your first pick for a dance partner at the inaugural ball, but in the deep roads, I'm your man. Oghren of House Kondrat was once a promising member of the warrior caste. His house was not especially high-ranked, but many of its members, Oghren included, had won notable victories in the provings and were considered to be rising in prestige. When a Smith caste family with plenty of money but no political connections offered their daughter in marriage, his family accepted the match, and then everything changed. His wife, Branka, was named a paragon for her achievements. All of House Kondrat joined her newly made noble House Branka, and vanished with her into the deep roads. As time passed and it became more and more clear that Oghren had been abandoned, he became the butt of jokes throughout Orzammar. He took to drink, which didn't especially help. Drunk and humiliated, he challenged another warrior to a proving over an insult and killed him. The match was meant to be fought to first blood. As a punishment, he was stripped of his house and barred from bearing arms, the only fate worse for a warrior than exile. And the Grey Warden Ariadne mounted a search for Branka and found her, and the Anvil of the Void for which she led her house to their deaths. Oghren enjoys challenging his palate with alcohols of ever-increasing rarity, potency, and outright lethality. This has afforded him no benefit whatsoever. I appreciate that little addendum there. No benefit whatsoever. He just really enjoys drinking really gross things. Oh yeah, and we also have a couple of codex entries about Keeper Zathrian, which is the leader of the Dalish clan that we have encountered. And Witherfang, the wolf, he wants us to kill in order to save them, which we will do eventually. We're just, it's going to take a little while before we actually get back to that place, so we'll deal with that a little bit later. The Holy Brazier. The brazier that stands atop the stairs in the great hall of our temple has always been something of a mystery to us. This is the brazier that created the beings we call the Ash Wraiths. This is where Andraste's followers immolated themselves and became the eternal guardians of her temple. I have painstakingly pieced together information from old books and from the tales and half-truths passed down to us by our forefathers. I believe I now understand the ritual used to create the wraiths. The brazier was lit with a consecrated taper, its flame taken from the everlasting fire that long ago consumed Andraste herself. The chosen disciple would fast and pray for weeks, taking into his body nothing but a sip of water a day. When the disciple was finally ready, he would place in his mouth a flawless black pearl and step into the flames. In ancient Tevinter, black pearls were thought to be magical, able to stop the soul from passing through the veil when held in the mouth at the moment of death. Thus, Andraste's disciples consigned themselves to the eternal flame. They became dust and ashes, and rose again and again to protect the most beloved of the Maker. From the Journal of Father Colgrim, so that's the dude in the Urn of Sacred Ashes quest. Here's Caridin's journal. 940, 45th day, 5th year of the reign of King Valtor. I have done it. The vision the ancestors gave me has come to fruition. Today, a man sat up from my forge, a man of living stone and steel. I called him Gollum, for the legend of those great statues animated by the dead. They are our future and our salvation. 940, 60th day, 5th year of the reign of King Valtor. It is a horrific process. Not every man could do such a thing and survive with his mind intact. I am honored that the ancestors believe I have the strength to bear this burden and forge Orzamar's defenders. Nothing so great may be achieved without sacrifice, nor may stone and steel walk without a spirit to animate them. 940, 73rd day, 5th year of the reign of King Valtor. I have asked for volunteers. Some few answered, men of the warrior caste, younger sons with no property, no chance for marriage. They want to defend Orzammar from the horrors these humans have unleashed. They want to live forever in a body stronger than the finest armor. They do not ask to speak with those who have gone before. I have put off saying this, even in these pages, but I must say it now. My golems will be powered by their deaths. These brave warriors come to me, naked as they were born. I dress them in a skin of armor so large it makes the burliest look no more than a babe, the anvil their first and final cradle. We are surrounded by a mile of earth on all sides. No one hears the screams as I pour molten lyrium through the eye holes, the mouth, every joint and chink in the armor. They silence quickly, but the smell lingers, just a trace of blood in the greater stench of hot metal. I must work fast. The armor is malleable now as I shape it with hammer and tongs. It is not long before it moves beneath my hands, writhing and twisting with every blow. It speaks again now, a low moan, but I have learned to tune it out. I can afford no error in this craft. There can be no melted slag blinding in the eyes, nor an unhewn bit of granite shackling the leg. They groan at my work, but would they rather be broken, crippled? Those I have spoken to tell me of the pain, but could they see themselves, they would see perfection. That's kind of creepy. That's kind of creepy, Caridin. That's kind of creepy. Let's see, what else have we got here? Uh-oh, I'm missing a history of the Chantry. That stinks. Let's do chapter 2 then, I guess. When the prophet Andraste and her husband Mafarath arrived at the head of their barbarian horde, southern Tevinter was thrown into chaos. The Imperium had defended against invasions in the past, but now they stood without the protection of their gods, with their army in tatters and their country devastated by the blight. Many felt that the timing of the invasion was yet another of the Maker's miracles in Andraste's campaign to spread his divine word. Andraste was more than simply the wife of a warlord, after all. She was also the betrothed of the Maker. Enraptured by the melodic sound of her voice as she sang to the heavens for guidance, the Maker himself appeared to Andraste and proposed that she come with him, leaving behind the flawed world of humanity. In her wisdom, Andraste pleaded with the Maker to return to his people and create paradise in the world of men. The Maker agreed, but only if all of the world would turn away from the worship of false gods and accept the Maker's divine commandments. Armed with the knowledge of the one true God, Andraste began the exalted march into the weakened Imperium. One of the Maker's commandments, that magic should serve man rather than rule over him, was as honey to the souls of the downtrodden of Tevinter, who lived under the thumbs of the Magisters. Word of Andraste's exalted march, of her miracles and military successes, spread far and wide. Those in the Imperium who felt the old gods had abandoned them eagerly listened to the words of the Maker. Those throngs of restless citizens that destroyed temples now did so in the name of the Maker and his prophet Andraste. As Mafarath's armies conquered the lands of southern Tevinter, so did Andraste's words conquer hearts. It is said that the Maker smiled on the world at the Battle of Valerian Fields, in which the forces of Mafarath challenged and defeated the greatest army Tevinter could muster. The southern reaches of the mighty Imperium now lay at the mercy of barbarians. Faith in the Maker, bolstered by such miracles, threatened to shake the foundations of the Imperium apart. Of course, the human heart is more powerful than the greatest weapon, and when wounded, it is capable of the blackest of deeds. From Tales of the Destruction of Thedas by Brother Genetivi. Let's see what Chapter 3 says. It is said that at the Battle of Valerian Fields, Mafarath stood and looked out over his armies. He had conquered the southern reaches of the greatest empire the world had ever known and built splintered barbarian clans into a force to be feared. With pride in his heart, he turned to congratulate his men and found that they had turned from him. Mafarath fell to the evil of jealousy. After all that he had done, his wife was the one to receive all the glory. He saw his wife's power and influence and tired of his place as second husband, below the Maker. His heart swelled with fury. If he had conquered just to have his wife wrested from him by a forgotten god and a legion of faith-hungry rabble, then perhaps this war was not worth the trouble. Here, history and the Chant of Light come apart. History tells us that Mafarath looked north into the Central Imperium and saw nothing but more war against a rapidly regrouping army, and he despaired. The Chant of Light holds that Mafarath chafed with jealousy of the Maker and jealousy of the glory that Andraste received, although it was he who led the armies. Mafarath traveled to the imperial capital of Minrathous to speak with the Archon Hissarion. There he offered up his wife to the Imperium in return for a truce that would end hostilities once and for all. The Archon, eager to put down the voice of the prophet that stirred his own people against him, agreed. Mafarath led Andraste into an ambush where she was captured by Imperial agents, putting an end to her exalted march. Crowds of loyalists stood in the central square of Minrathous to watch Andraste's execution. By command of the Archon, she was burned at the stake in what the Imperium believed to be the most painful punishment imaginable. According to the Chantry, however, Andraste was instead purified and made whole by the flames, ascending to life at her Maker's side. By all accounts, there was only silence where they expected screams. At the sight of the prophet burning, the crowds were filled with a profound guilt, as if they had participated in a great blasphemy. So moving was the moment that the Archon himself drew his sword and thrust it into the prophet's heart, ending her torment and leaving those assembled to consider the weight of what they had seen. Whereas the execution of Andraste was meant to be a symbol of defeat for the faith of the Maker, in truth, it all but sealed the fate of the worship of the old gods and paved the way for the spread of the Maker's chant. And here's Chapter 4. The crowds present at the death of Andraste were right to feel despair. It is believed that the prophet's execution angered the Maker, and he turned his back on humanity once more, leaving the people of Thedas to suffer in the dark. In these dark times, mankind scrambled for a light, any light. Some found comfort in demonic cults that promised power and riches in return for worship. Others prayed to the old gods for forgiveness, begging the great dragons to return to the world. Still others fell so low as to worship the Darkspawn, forming vile cults dedicated to the exaltation of evil in its purest form. It is said that the world wept as its people begged for a savior who would not come. Andraste's followers, however, did not abandon her teachings when she died. The cult of Andraste rescued her sacred ashes from the courtyard in Minrathous after her execution, stealing them away to a secret temple. The location of that temple has long been lost, but the ashes of Andraste served as a symbol of the enduring nature of the faith in the Maker, that humanity could earn the Maker's forgiveness despite its grievous insult to him. With time, the cult of Andraste spread and grew, and the Chant of Light took form. Sing this chant in the four corners of Thedas, it was said, and the world would gain the Maker's attention at last. As the Chant of Light spread, the cult of Andraste became known as the Andrastian Chantry. Those who converted to the Chantry's beliefs found it their mission to spread Andraste's word. There were many converts, including powerful people in the Imperium and in the city-states of what is now Orlais. Such was the power of the Maker's word that the young King Draken undertook a series of exalted marches meant to unite the city-states and create an empire solely dedicated to the Maker's will. The Orlesian Empire became the seat of the Chantry's power, the Grand Cathedral in Val Royeaux, the source of the movement that birthed the organized Chantry as we know it today. Draken, by then Emperor Draken I, created the Circle of Magi, the Order of Templars, and the Holy Office of the Divine. Many within the Chantry revere him nearly as equal with Andraste herself. I'm sure most of those people are Orlesians. The modern Chantry is a thing of faith and beauty, but it is also a house of necessity, protecting Thedas from powerful forces that would do it harm. Where the Grey Wardens protect the world from the Blights, the Chantry protects mankind from itself. Most of all, the Chantry works to earn the Maker's forgiveness, so that one day he will return and transform the world into the paradise it was always meant to be. An interesting perspective on the early history of the Chantry and how it sort of came into being. A lot of the stuff that we're sort of reading about now and learning about now is like sort of the basis of this world, which is sort of why I'm taking so much time to read it all, because as the franchise progresses, as we get into Dragon Age 2 and then eventually especially into Dragon Age Inquisition, understanding these sort of core beliefs and these sort of core legends that exist in Thedas is gonna be really important to sort of understanding the full breadth of how they're going to be transformed as we learn more and more about the world of Thedas going forward. Basically, don't accept anything you see or hear in Dragon Age Origins at face value. This is all in-universe information. Obviously, these are, excerpts from, like, in-universe books written by characters in the world. We've met Brother Genitivi, right? He's a character in the world. He's written all of this stuff. He's a scholar, and he's very knowledgeable. He knows a lot. But these are ultimately still mostly legends, and a lot of them mostly boil down to hearsay. And nothing in Thedas is ever quite what it seems, especially when it comes to history. Of course, we know history is written by the winners, so to speak, right? The people who come out on top are the ones who eventually get around to writing history, as in the story of the past. But it is ultimately just a story. It's a very, it's definitely a very specific kind of perspective on events that happened in the past. There's always going to be bias there, and especially when you're talking about things that happened a very, very, very long time ago, sometimes thousands of years ago, the information is not always going to be complete, and it's also it's going to be incomplete and it's going to be biased. So it's kind of important to understand that going forward, that like these are sort of the basic foundational beliefs and understandings of people in this world. They're not necessarily correct. They're not necessarily accurate, but this is what they are, and they may change going forward. They may very well alter drastically going forward. So that's kind of where we are. We still have quite a few codex to go through, but I think we'll leave it here for now, and we might do a few yeah, we have a Kadash Tig to go to. We also need to do this DLC. We have a couple more DLCs to do. We can maybe try to clear out a few more side quests as well, go to Denerim, etc., and do some more things. So yeah, we'll see how it goes. As always, if you like what you see, please like, comment, subscribe, and we'll see you in the next episode. Later!